I was still wearing the hospital discharge bracelet when the bank called to congratulate me on my new commercial property loan. I had been home for 3 days. The appendectomy had gone sideways, perforated bowel, sepsis, the whole nightmare cascade that turns a routine procedure into 2 weeks of touch-and-go delirium. I was finally upright, finally able to walk from the bedroom to the kitchen without stopping, finally beginning to think about returning to work at the district attorney's office. The last thing on my mind was real estate investment. The woman on the phone sounded genuinely pleased. She asked how I was feeling about the warehouse conversion project in the industrial district. She mentioned a figure, $300,000. I told her there had been a mistake. She assured me there had not. She referenced my signature on the application, my social security number, my employment history as an assistant prosecutor. She mentioned that my sister Jennifer had been so helpful throughout the process, acting as my representative while I recovered. So efficient, so knowledgeable. I thanked her and hung up. For about 60 seconds, I sat very still at my kitchen table. My cat was sleeping in a patch of sunlight. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, someone was mowing a lawn. Everything was ordinary and peaceful and completely wrong. Then I opened my laptop and began to document everything. Jennifer was my older sister by 4 years. That gap had always mattered more to her than to me. Growing up, she had treated it as a kind of constitutional authority, a permanent hierarchical arrangement where she made decisions and I complied. Our parents had encouraged it, praising her leadership, her take-charge attitude, her natural ability to manage things. What they called management, I eventually recognized as control. She had handled our grandmother's estate when I was in law school, assuring me the distribution was equal even though I never saw documentation. She had coordinated our parents' 30th anniversary party and assigned me a non-negotiable contribution of $2,000, then never provided a budget breakdown. She had borrowed my car for a weekend and returned it 3 weeks later with a cracked bumper and vague explanations about parking. I had let these things go because confronting Jennifer required more energy than I usually had. She was a force. Loud, confident, utterly certain of her righteousness in every situation. She worked in real estate development, a job that seemed to amplify all her most exhausting qualities. She talked constantly about deals, about vision, about people who lacked the killer instinct to succeed. When I went into the hospital, she had visited once. She brought magazines and a fruit basket. She also asked for my insurance information, said she would handle anything that needed handling while I was out of commission. She took a photo of my driver's license and insurance card with her phone. "For the hospital," she said. To make everything easier. I had been too feverish to think clearly. I had thanked her. 2 days later, according to the bank timeline I would later reconstruct, she had walked into a branch across town with a loan application for a commercial warehouse property. She had listed my income, my employment, my credit history. She had signed my name in a passable imitation of my signature. She had provided my social security number and a copy of my driver's license. The loan officer had asked for proof of identity. Jennifer had explained that I was hospitalized, that she had power of attorney to manage my affairs during my recovery. She had shown a notarized document giving her that authority. That document was also forged. The bank, eager to close a deal on a property that had been sitting vacant, had processed everything with impressive speed. The money had been wired to an escrow account. Jennifer had signed a purchase agreement on the warehouse. She had done all of this in my name, with my credit, using my identity as a prosecutor to add legitimacy to the application. I learned these details slowly, methodically over the course of a week. I started with the bank. I called back, asked for copies of all documentation related to the loan. I explained that I had not applied for any loan, had not signed any papers, had been in intensive care during the application period. The loan officer's enthusiasm curdled into alarm. She transferred me to the fraud department. I requested hospital records showing the exact dates of my admission and the times I had been under anesthesia or sedated. I pulled my credit report and found the hard inquiry from the bank, dated to a day when I had been intubated. I contacted the notary whose stamp appeared on the fraudulent power of attorney document. She worked at a shipping store in a strip mall. She checked her records and confirmed that she had notarized a document for a woman named Jennifer who claimed to be acting on behalf of her hospitalized sister. The woman had shown ID and signed in the notary log. The notary had no reason to suspect fraud. I obtained security footage from the bank. It took a formal request on district attorney letterhead, but I got it. There was Jennifer, clear as day, sitting across from the loan officer, smiling, gesturing confidently, signing my name on document after document. I contacted the title company handling the warehouse purchase. I requested copies of all communications and contracts. Jennifer had listed her own phone number and email as the contact information for me. There were dozens of messages, all signed with my name, all written in Jennifer's unmistakable style, full of exclamation points and phrases like circling back and touching base. I compiled everything into a single file: bank records, hospital records, video footage, notary logs, emails, credit reports, signatures for comparison. I organized it chronologically, cross-referenced every claim, documented every discrepancy. It was the same process I used to build criminal cases: gather evidence, verify sources, construct a timeline, let the facts tell the story. By the end of the week, I had a case file that could have convicted a stranger. The fact that it documented my own sister's crimes made it surreal, but not less airtight. I sat with it for a day. I kept thinking Jennifer would call, would confess, would somehow acknowledge what she had done. Maybe she would claim it was a misunderstanding, a surprise investment on my behalf, some twisted logic that made sense in her mind. She did not call. I checked the property records. The warehouse purchase was moving forward. Jennifer had scheduled an inspection. She was planning to flip the property or convert it into loft apartments, something that would generate profit. Profit built entirely on $300,000 of debt in my name. I made 2 phone calls. The first was to the bank's fraud department. I submitted a formal affidavit of forgery and identity theft. I provided the complete case file. The second was to my supervisor at the district attorney's office. I had worked in the DA's office for 6 years. I had prosecuted theft, fraud, embezzlement, identity crimes. I knew the statutes cold: forgery in the first degree, identity theft in the first degree, grand larceny, offering a false instrument for filing, each one a felony. My supervisor listened while I explained the situation. I kept my voice level, factual. I presented it the way I would present any case. At the end, I asked to recuse myself from any involvement in the prosecution due to the obvious conflict of interest. He agreed. Then he assigned the case to our financial crimes unit and told me to take another week of medical leave. I used that week to tell my parents. They did not believe me at first. My mother actually laughed, said there must be some confusion. Jennifer would never do something like that. My father suggested I had misunderstood a legitimate financial arrangement, perhaps something Jennifer had set up to help me build equity while I recovered. I sent them the case file. The silence that followed lasted 2 days. Then my mother called and asked if I was sure I wanted to pursue this. She used the phrase "tear the family apart," as if the family had not already been torn apart by Jennifer committing multiple felonies against me. She suggested mediation, family counseling, anything other than legal action. I explained that the legal action was already in motion. The bank had flagged the loan as fraudulent. The title company had halted the property purchase. The district attorney's office had opened an investigation. None of this was in my control anymore. That was not entirely true. I could have declined to press charges. I could have tried to resolve it privately. But Jennifer had stolen my identity, forged legal documents, and saddled me with a $300,000 debt while I was fighting sepsis in a hospital bed. She had done it with calculation and confidence. She had not confessed or apologized. She had not even called. So I did not stop the process. 2 weeks after the bank first contacted me, detectives visited Jennifer at her office. They asked her to come to the station to answer questions about a financial matter. She went, still confident, still certain she could explain her way through anything. They arrested her 3 hours later. The arraignment was surreal. I did not attend, but I read the transcript. Jennifer had pled not guilty, claimed the whole thing was a misunderstanding between sisters, said I had given her permission to handle my finances. Her attorney argued that family financial arrangements were complex and that this was a civil matter, not a criminal one. The prosecutor, a colleague of mine named David, had presented the evidence methodically. The hospital records proving I had been incapacitated, the video footage of Jennifer forging my signature, the notarized power of attorney that the notary confirmed was based on Jennifer's misrepresentation. The timeline of fraudulent communications with the title company. The judge had set bail at $50,000. My parents paid it. Then they called and asked me to drop the charges. I explained again that I could not drop charges I had not technically filed. The state was prosecuting. I was the victim and a witness, but the case belonged to the district attorney's office now. My mother cried. She said Jennifer had made a mistake. That family should forgive family, that I was destroying my sister's life over money. I pointed out that the money was not abstract. It was $300,000 of debt that would have ruined my credit, my career, my future. I pointed out that Jennifer had not made a mistake. She had committed premeditated fraud while I was fighting for my life in a hospital. My father said I had always been cold, calculated, too concerned with rules and not enough with relationships. I said that was probably why I was a good prosecutor. I did not hear from them again until the trial. Jennifer's attorney tried to negotiate a plea. David offered a deal. Plead guilty to 1 count of identity theft and 1 count of forgery. Serve 18 months. Pay full restitution, probation. Jennifer refused. She wanted to go to trial. She was still convinced she could persuade a jury that this was a family misunderstanding blown out of proportion. The trial lasted 4 days. I testified on the 2nd day. David walked me through the timeline. The hospitalization, the bank call, the discovery process. I presented each piece of evidence calmly, the way I had presented evidence 100 times in other trials. I did not cry or rage. I simply described what had happened. Jennifer's attorney cross-examined me. He suggested that I had been estranged from my sister, that I harbored resentment over childhood slights, that I was using the legal system for personal revenge. He pointed out that Jennifer had not stolen cash, had not disappeared with money. She had invested in property. Perhaps she intended to include me in the profits. I explained that intent was irrelevant when the method was identity theft and forgery. He asked if I felt good about putting my own sister in prison. I said I felt nothing but tired. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was brief. The judge acknowledged that this was a family tragedy, but noted that Jennifer had committed serious felonies with sophistication and premeditation. She had exploited her sister's medical crisis for financial gain. She had shown no remorse. 3 years in state prison, full restitution of all costs incurred by the bank and by me, 5 years of probation after release. Jennifer cried. My mother cried. My father sat stone-faced. I felt a strange hollow calm, like the air after a thunderstorm has passed. My parents did not speak to me for a year. I heard through an aunt that they visited Jennifer in prison every month, that they were helping pay her legal fees for an appeal that went nowhere. I heard that they told people at their church that I had betrayed my sister, that I had chosen my career over family. I did not correct them. I did not explain. I let them carry whatever story made the loss bearable. The bank cleared the fraudulent loan from my credit report. The title company dropped the warehouse purchase. Jennifer's real estate license was revoked. Her professional reputation disintegrated. My life returned to normal with strange speed. I went back to work. I prosecuted other cases. I got a small promotion. I adopted a second cat. Sometimes colleagues asked about the case in careful, oblique ways. I gave short answers. Family matter. It was handled. I moved on. And I had, 3 years later, almost to the day, Jennifer was released. I heard about it from the same aunt. Jennifer was living in a halfway house, working at a call center, attending mandated counseling. She was a felon now, permanently. That mark would follow her through every job application, every housing lease, every background check. I did not reach out. A month after her release, I received a letter. My address, handwritten on the envelope in Jennifer's distinctive script. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. The letter was short. She wrote that she had spent 3 years thinking about what she had done. She wrote that she finally understood the gravity of it, the betrayal, the violence of taking someone's identity and twisting it for personal gain. She wrote that she was sorry. She did not ask for forgiveness. She did not ask for anything. She ended with a single line, "You were right to stop me." I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. I did not respond. But I did not throw it away either. 5 years have passed since the bank first called. I am still a prosecutor. I was promoted to the Financial Crimes Unit, the same unit that handled Jennifer's case. I spend my days building cases against people who exploit trust, who forge documents, who steal identities. I am good at it. Patient. Thorough. Unbothered by the emotional noise that clouds evidence. My parents and I exchange emails on birthdays. Polite, brief. We do not discuss Jennifer. We do not discuss the trial. We have silently agreed to be friendly strangers. Jennifer and I have no contact. I heard she moved to another state, found work in property management under supervision, slowly rebuilt some version of a life. I do not follow her progress. I do not wish her harm. I simply hold the boundary. Some people think that makes me cold, unforgiving. They believe family should transcend justice, that blood should erase accountability. I used to try to explain. Now I just let them think what they need to think. Because I know the truth. Peace did not come from reconciliation or forgiveness or pretending the betrayal was small. Peace came from stopping someone who would have destroyed me, from holding a line, from letting consequences teach what my compassion never could. Last week I was sitting in my apartment on a Saturday morning. Sunlight slanted through the window. Both cats were asleep on the couch. I was drinking coffee and reading case files for Monday's trial, underlining inconsistencies, noting patterns of deception. My life is quiet now, orderly, small. And for the first time in years, I realized I did not carry the weight of anyone's chaos but my own. I took another sip of coffee, felt its warmth, and returned to the work of holding people accountable. Sometimes the only revenge you need is refusing to be destroyed. Still wearing my hospital bracelet, the bank called to congratulate me on my buy. $300,000 warehouse loan. My sister forged everything. While I fought sepsis. You're tearing the family apart. Mom cried. They paid her bail. I sat very still and opened my laptop. But then at arraignment, they realized I'm the prosecutor. Guilty on all counts, 3 years. Jennifer's attorney went pale because YouTube video. Description. I woke up from emergency surgery to discover my sister had taken out a $300,000 loan in my name. While I was fighting sepsis in the ICU, she forged my signature, created fake documents, and bought a commercial warehouse using my identity. My parents told me to let it go and not tear the family apart over money. So I opened my laptop and started building a case file, the same way I'd done 100 times before in my actual job. What happened next changed everything. This is the true story of how family betrayal, hospital records, and security footage collided in the most unexpected way possible. Have you ever had a family member betray your trust? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments. If you believe actions have consequences, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life justice stories told with receipts. Justice served, Shark family, betrayal, identity, theft, true story, revenge. Karma is real.